What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Sixers Postgame Live. We'll have others trickling in as we roll on. Sixers get the L here, 104-101. A brutal loss for the Philadelphia 76ers. The refs were awful. Philly special cards, absolutely awful. I don't understand how Maxey can get tackled on that last possession with 0 calls being made, while every ticky-tack, every soft call goes towards the Knicks. We're not going to make that point any further than that, because at the end of the day, the Sixers had a 5-point lead here with Lowry missing a free throw and a terrible inbounds to Tyrese Maxey with a 2-point lead and 29 seconds remaining. We've got Quentin in the house saying, I'm just here for the negative comments. This is kind of representative of everything we have seen from the Philadelphia 76ers over the last several years. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid doing everything. The two had 69 points in this one, giving it their all. Yeah, Maxey had some bad turnovers there late, but where's everybody else? Where's everybody else? Tobias Harris had a very good first half. Second half, not so much. At least he was active defensively. At least he was getting boards on. I loved his activity on the glass. 9 rebounds, a steal, a block. But outside of that, Kelly Oubre Jr. had one of his worst games. Just 4 points in 26 minutes. Looked lost. Nick Batum was 2 of 4 from 3-point range. Was a -6. And then Buddy Hield, man. Buddy Hield has done his best disappearing act, which is a shame considering how well he finished the regular season from the perimeter. Guys, if you're watching us live, please be sure to comment your thoughts on this one. Let us know where do the Sixers go from here? Because losing 2 games in New York, this was, again, a game that was very winnable for the Philadelphia 76ers, and it was a game that we will look back and what could have been. So joining us, he is Sean Bernard. What's up, Sean?
I got nothing, man. That I think that was worse than the Kawhi shot. I genuinely do. That was probably
the Jalen Brunson 3.
Just the whole sequence of events there. The way that just ended. The win was in hands. You could have tossed that in the win column, and then you just couldn't anymore. That just a disaster from start to finish. The lack of execution, the turnovers. They needed this one. That this is 2 games that should have been wins. They couldn't find a way to get either one of them, and this one was such there for the taking. Now, this was a layup, walk-in victory, and you just found a way to blow it at the end. It was harder to lose that game than win it at that final point of the game, and just embarrassing stuff that's going to cost the series.
Yeah, and I don't want to blame it on Lowry, who, had I think a very good game 1, but man, missing that free throw at the end there, and then that inbounds to Maxey was just killer. What about you, Tiago? Just quick reaction on this one. Can you hear us, Tiago?
I think physicality matters. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, man. We got you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think physicality matters, Chris. I know we're going to talk about the refs. We're going to talk about Kyle Lowry. We're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey. But when you get consistently manhandled on the glass like the Sixers have for the last 2 games, sooner or later it's going to come back and bite you in the ass big time. And the Sixers have played soft for 2 games when it mattered. I mean, I know Joel Embiid's batting through injuries. I know he's got a bum leg. You can't be boxing out a 5'8" guard when DiVincenzo missed that 3-pointer. You got to get your ass on Isaiah Hartenstein, man. Like, there's just no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. Simple as that. Like, that is losing type basketball from the Sixers with the season potentially on the line. And that's just unexcusable. I know people are going to talk about the refs, and there's some ref discussions to be had for sure, but this is the stuff that we continually see from this team over and over again in the postseason. It is maddening that they threw a game like this out the window. And I'm going to put on the players, to be honest with you. I'm not going to hide behind the refs. These guys have to rebound and have to play the level of physicality that the Knicks are playing. They have not matched New York physically at all. Period. There's no way you can tell me otherwise. So it's very, very frustrating, extremely angering if you're a Sixers fan.
Yeah, fully agree. Guys, please give this video a like. If wherever you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Let's get to some comments. Big Al says Villanova is dead to me. Sorry, Josh Hart turning into Ray Allen was not on my bingo card in this series. Like, at some point, he has to fall back to earth, right? Like,
Yeah.
the dude cannot miss, man. He is just straight locked in. And I keep telling myself it's going to happen, but it's not happening, Sean.
I mean, he missed that big one down the stretch, and that was clearly that Nurse is of the same mindset as us, that the dude's not a real shooter. He's a 31% shooter this year. He's been a slightly below average three-point shooter throughout his career, better than 31%. I think his average is 34, which is still slightly below the average. He's just not going to be shooting 7 of 12 for 3. That he didn't have a single game this season where he made 3 or more three-pointers. Well, he's had 4 in back-to-back games in these playoff series. And the most frustrating thing about this entire series to me, this Knicks team, they're just not that good. They're a fine team. They fight hard. They play tough, but they're just not that talented. That Jalen Brunson is closer to Tyrese Maxey than he is Joel Embiid. These are winnable games that the team has had in control, a chance to drive home the victory in back-to-back in both games, game 1 and game 2. Today's especially frustrating because of it, just because of the way that things played out. But this is on the Sixers, that this is an internal loss, that they did this to themselves. The Knicks did not beat the Sixers. These Sixers beat themselves today, and that absolutely sucks for that to be the realization.
Yep. Cody says, shout out to Embiid for gutting it out. Maxey collapsed, which is it's a kind of difficult considering he had, back-to-back buckets. One was a mid-range jumper off an Embiid screen that gave the Sixers a 1-point lead. Another was a 3-pointer from Steph Curry land that gave the Sixers a 4-point lead with a minute remaining. Just brutal to see that kind of flip-flop there in the final minute. Still couldn't rebound. I mean, they had 56 boards compared to the Knicks 56 boards. But in the end, Embiid not boxing out late in games. That's kind of been the theme of this series so far. And I'm not blaming Embiid. Embiid is doing as much as he can right now. But anyway, did I really send the wrong link? Is that my God, my bad.
That's why we were late.
My bad. Big Al says, I usually do not blame the refs, but this was just terrible. Should we get into that now or should we wait?
I can get into it. I'll do the Jalen Brunson stuff. That, like, the dude's just Trae Young with a better PR team. The way that he attacks the paint, it's snapping his head back. And I like Jalen Brunson. I want to like Jalen Brunson. But, like, the amount of Knicks fans that were all over the Embiid whistle going into this series, the Brunson stuff is more egregious to me. It's very Trae Young-like, that he's jumping into guys. And I really thought, like, there was an effort to take that out of the game. Like, some of the ones that Oubre got bopped for were just absurd today. Like, what do you want the guy to do? He's jumping backwards into him. And the fact that those are still getting calls is crazy. And then just, like, I mean, it was a just poorly ref game that I think some of it was both-sided bad tonight. The stuff at the end, like the timeout just has to be called sooner on Nurse's end. That's on him, but still the ref should be aware. There's a lot to nitpick from the refereeing thing. I would put how Brunson was called at the top of my list, but just frustrating from start to finish.
Yeah, that nobody that actually likes basketball can watch that game and be like, that was fair.
Yeah.
That was an even called basketball game. And I agree with Tiago's point. Like, regardless of what's going on, like, then so be it. If that's what the refs are going to give you, then it should be Maxey that's also out there flopping and flailing and trying to get calls too, because it was not even. Tiago, do you have any takes on the refs?
I mean, the refs are going to be the refs. I think that the Brunson stuff that Sean talked about, which I think is true, like Brunson just gets way too many calls for a guy who initiates very little towards the rim, right? He's always settling into that mid-range area. Like, that's just garbage free calls that he's getting without actually attacking the basket. So I don't understand why he gets all those calls in the mid-range. Having said that, that's going to even out in Philly. I don't think he's going to be getting the same types of calls in Philadelphia. So I don't think this is going to be an issue, at least for the next 2 games. And I don't want to use that as an excuse. I think in the fourth quarter, right, the game was to be had if you take away all the nonsense in the game. Sixers got very little from Joel Embiid offensively. They got very little. It was a lot of back to the basket stuff, a lot of face-up stuff from long range, a lot of three-point shots. I understand your injury. I understand that. But you have, in my opinion, do a better job at getting him downhill. They were working with Maxey and Embiid, pick and roll out in the third quarter. There's a lot of 1-2 game actions with those two. They completely went away with that. They had no outside shooting for the most part in this game. So I think those are the points that really contributed to why they lost. But yeah, to your point, Chris and Sean, like the refereeing was just terrible. And there's no way to look at that besides exactly what you guys said.
Can you imagine how good Maxey would be with that level of calls? That's kind of something we have seen all season long. Mark says Tiago is right. The Bull says that was rigged. Go ahead, Tiago.
I will say this. I think the Sixers made a good adjustment in the fourth quarter. They went with size. So Batum and Harris played Brunson very well in the fourth quarter. And I think that's something they can carry on to game 3. I thought they did a very good job for the most part, just taking away those spots on the court, making them shoot over size. So I think there's a recipe there to slow down Brunson, but they have to be consistent through 4 quarters, which they have not been.
Yep. Cody says if we lose, we should go get Mikal Bridges. Todd says if you want to call the calls, Embiid gets fouled every time. Man, a lot of people on the refs. That is for sure.
Plenty of material.
Lots of material, man. Tobias has to be more aggressive offensively. Lowry is the last guy you would think would throw an inbounds pass like that. Yeah, that was brutal. Maxey gave up the Brunson 3, threw the ball away, got blocked at the rim, and couldn't shoot at the buzzer because he's small. It's tough, man. And I thought this was like the Maxey game too. This was like all signs pointed to this being the Maxey flu game. It just sucks the way it finished. All right. Where should we go from here, Sean? Any thoughts?
I'll give my Joel speech real quick. I'm pretty sick of all the anti-Joel stuff that, like, I get it, all the past year scars, and, like, you can nitpick, but I still think the dude deserves more flowers than he gets just for, frankly, being out there and competing. This dude was diving on the ground with 3 minutes left in this game with one knee. That, like, he couldn't even move by the end of that game. And I get, like, it's not the ideal version of himself. I get, in reality, you need more than him. But the dude had, 35, 11, and 6 on a game in which he couldn't even move up and down the floor, that he still had a big-time and one, still was blocking Deuce McBride down the stretch. So as much as, like, this game ends on a sour note, and we understand it, give the man his flowers for playing through it and having more heart than just about any athlete I've ever seen. That I think it's still, despite the accolades, despite the MVP, I think Joel Embiid is one of the more underappreciated athletes that I've ever seen. So I want to give him a little love for just the fact that he is competing the way he is. I think like 95% of the entire NBA their season would be shut down by now, and I might even be underselling that number. So as much as people are going to come for the trade Joel Embiid, he's always injured, and I get the frustrations. Just give the dude a little love, because this organization is nothing without him. This is a straight up lottery team. And frankly, they're not remotely in this game, because you see the night and day difference every second he steps off the floor. So I'm still giving a shout out to Joel Embiid tonight.
Yeah. Death taxes and the Sixers or Joel Embiid having a positive plus minus in a playoff loss. That's just what we're accustomed to. And here's his shot chart. And Tiago, do you have any thoughts on Embiid in this game?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on what Sean said, because the guy's playing hurt, right? It's clearly obvious he's not as effective as he wants to be.
Yeah.
I think Nick Nurse has done an absolutely terrible job, and I mean a terrible job, at building offense off Joel Embiid, right? He's still drawing the same amount of double teams. He's still drawing the same amount of attention that he usually draws on the court, even though he's playing at 70 to 55%, whatever he's at. Where are the shooters? Where is the motion? Where is the cutting off of all that attention? I mean, this offense, for the most part of the second half in particular, looked stagnant. It looked slow. Joel had the ball for multiple possessions, 5, 4, 3 seconds left on the shot clock. Now, granted, I think Embiid's decision-making is a little bit sharper, knowing that he's unable to move the way that he wants to. But I think Nick Nurse has done an absolute terrible job, right, building lineups that work, getting some more shooters on the court. Why isn't Campaign out there? Campaign has shot the ball semi-well as a Sixer. Why isn't Buddy Hield just getting more clean spot-up looks? Playing Batum more with Embiid. So I think, yeah, the guy's playing hurt. You're not going to get a full Joel Embiid, but the coach needs to help. All the action they've done off Joel Embiid for the most part this game was through Tyrese Maxey. It was very effective, but there's little off Joel, knowing that he's not going to be as impactful of a scorer that you liked him to be over the course of the playoffs here. So I've been disappointed with Nick Nurse offensively, man. I thought he's done a very bad job through 2 games, to be honest.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
The ball movement for stretches in this game was god awful, just straight god awful. Just way too much dribbling, way too much ISO ball, and like Tiago said, as game 1, like the issue was the same as this one. Maxey and Embiid were terrific, but where's the supporting cast? Just like Tiago said, I think he's done a really bad job of getting them involved as well. Any thoughts on that, Sean?
Yeah, I think Tiago's spot on. That it feels like we're back to the default Joel and Tyrese go figure it out offense. And to both those guys credit, they did a lot of the times. They did figure it out. But even the Buddy Hield stuff, he's been wildly disappointing. And he is still a weapon that can be used in a greater way than he is. Some of those off-ball runs today, there was the one where he ran from straight under the basket directly up to the top of the 3-point line, and he got the ball. But it's you're in no position to shoot. You're full out facing the other direction. What are we even trying to do here? So I've been very disappointed by that. And it's when you see the clearly not 100% version of Joel Embiid, it's all the more important to maximize that you got to make life easier for your superstar player. And I've really seen none of that. There aren't the duck-ins, there aren't the off-ball motion, not the decisions for him to be made. And it feels like this specific offense that we're currently seeing is miles behind the one that we saw at the start of the season, which I get Embiid was out for an extended period of time and that obviously all these things happen, but that's super disappointing to be at clearly the most important portion of the season. And in my opinion, the offense has regressed in a massive way. So that just sucks to kind of have that realization.
Let's get
Sean,
into this.
They have no plan for Buddy Hield. Since the moment Buddy Hield got here, you watch him in Indiana, they've had no plan for him. It has been disappointing. And I know Buddy needs to hit open shots, but he's just not getting them.
Right.
And you got to maximize his time with Joel Embiid, man. They don't play together. They don't play together. It's wild. How is this guy not playing with Joel Embiid when you're lacking DeAnthony Melton's shot, right? When you're lacking shooters on the court. Tobias Harris doesn't like to shoot. Kelly Oubre has done absolutely nothing offensively. So you got to maximize the offense around him, and he's done a very bad job at that, in my opinion.
All right, so here's Buddy Hield's shot chart in this one. 26 minutes so far, games 1 and 2 combined. How many points do you think Buddy Hield has in that stretch?
2.
2 points.
Yep.
2 points. But Buddy Hield is 1 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3-point range. And this is a guy who actually we were pumping up the way he finished the regular season, albeit the competition wasn't the best. But man, in a series so far, again, it's just 2 games. So we are light years away from where we go from here in terms of who wins this series. But it's the series has all been about complementary players, and Buddy Hield is just that sore spot that the Sixers need energy. They need his spacing, and it's just not happening. And a lot, like you guys said, a lot of that's on Nick Nurse, man.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to figure it out.
And he's too good of a shooter not to figure it out. That's too much of a weapon or an asset to just have in your pocket to just kind of be rolling him out there. And I get he's hasn't been good, but life has not been easier on him. And I mean, it's just frustrating. When you speak about this series not being over, that's a tough one to pick yourself up of. Not leaving New York 1-1 after that's the way the game's played out. And I even went into this game not saying it's a must win. I think there's very much a world where they drop 2, they win 2 in Philly, and then all of a sudden it's a best of 3. But the fact that it was that type of ending, that type of dagger to the heart, that it was there for the taking, the win was penciled in nearly, and then the Knicks somehow find a way. It's tough to bounce back from that one. And Joel's not going to be getting better. That I think I entered this playoff run thinking he's going to get more comfortable. He's going to get more in the flow of things. It's very clear that is not the case, that he's only downswing from here on out. And to his credit, again, he's leaving it all on the floor and still very clearly the best player on the floor on either team for this, but it's tough to rebound from that one.
Yeah.
Can I just make one
Brandon?
more point, buddy? Sorry, Chris. Just one more point,
Yeah,
because I think this is important. Like, Kyle Lowry played very well. Kyle Lowry is a very useful part of this team. If you prioritize Kyle Lowry on the corner instead of Buddy Hield, like, there's something wrong there, because Kyle Lowry has not been good as a shooter so far this postseason. So I think you have to balance those minutes out to get Buddy Hield more minutes with Joel Embiid. I thought Tyrese Maxey's playmaking tonight was very, very good. And I thought he could have really played off Buddy being on the court, because he got Tobias Harris some very, very good looks. He got Batum some very, very good looks. And when he got Lowry those looks, they were straight up breaks. So I think, yes, I think Lowry is very important to this team, obviously. It goes without saying, but you got to balance some of those minutes out, in my opinion.
Yeah. Brandon says we are way too soft. Rudy Poo's in the house saying Embiid gave up those offensive boards. As much as I loved Embiid's performance the last 2 games, he's gutting it out, but he's given up a couple really big rebounds in critical moments
For sure.
late in the game. You can't. It's what it is. Barry says Maxey played phenomenal. Considering he was questionable, he played amazing. Josh Hart will eventually come back down to earth. I hope so, Nick. I hope so, because he's been the difference. He's got to be. It's either him or Miles McBride, just shooting daggers from the perimeter, man.
He's a little punk too. Josh Hart's a little punk too. He's definitely the my most hated Knicks player on this team for sure.
Which one, Josh Hart or Deuce?
Josh Hart. I still got a little soft spot for Deuce. I like Deuce a little bit, but Josh Hart, like that flop in the first quarter is like one of the more absurd embellishments that I've seen from a player. Like, really yeah, that's like beyond Marcus Smart stuff. So he's very much a just Villanova Marcus Smart.
Where's the Embiid Reed lineup?
It's not going to happen. They haven't played all year. It's not going to happen. He's not going to do it in the postseason. It's just not going to happen.
I wanted to see it, but yeah, the fact that that wasn't a part of the adjustment today, I think we can kick that one down the drain.
I know. I was hoping for it. Buddy says, first Kevin says, Buddy coming up small. Really, you're complaining about the refs. Is there anything more soft and fake than a Knicks fan? Like, that entire game, they have been getting call after call after call, and then something doesn't go their way, and they literally just come. It is what it is. I'm just
Chris. I mean, when you have been the most irrelevant franchise over the last 30 years, yeah, a game 2 win is like a Super Bowl, right? These guys, I mean,
there's game 1. Come on, man.
There's going to be a parade down in Times Square. There's a parade scheduled in Times Square for tomorrow. So, what else would you expect from Knicks fans, right?
And by the way, Sixers have been to a finals more recently than the Knicks have, which is wild.
That is wild.
That is crazy. That is crazy. All right. Nick says we didn't get a single Embiid, B-Ball Paul lineup tonight. We didn't get killed on the glass. I think we got killed on the glass late, and that was the bigger situation. I thought the Sixers actually had something like 32 to 25 in the rebound category in the first half. Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. I thought they did I thought that was a very good adjustment. It's just at the end of the day, they hit shots. The role players hit shots, and the Sixers role players did not show up yet again. Quinn says we lack strong point guard play. The Sixers offense doesn't look any different than it did with Doc. That's the problem, right, Tiago? There's way too much. Well, I'm not comparing, but at least do more pick and pop with Embiid. Get him moving a little bit. I thought there was just way too much standing around. I thought all the ball movement we saw with Kelly Oubre attacking, and we just haven't seen it. I don't like Batum and Tobias on the court together. There's definite question marks surrounding this Sixers offense the last 2 games.
That being said, it's quite a stretch to say it looks like a Doc Rivers offense, because you watch 3 seasons of Doc Rivers, and I was about to jump out the window by season number 3. So I think it's got to get better for sure, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. GSC says Sixers will never win the playoffs with Embiid, plain and simple. Deep down, the real ones know it. I mean, how do you deny that? Like, how, like, at some point, you have to call a spade a spade. This team is soft.
What percentage of tonight do you put on Joel Embiid, honestly?
5.
Right. That's what I get at. So, like, I get it. Like, he's the common denominator that you want to go through all these things. But it's like the dude played his heart out. And my argument here is, like, where do you go from here? What route do you give this Sixers team a better chance to win a championship than this version of Joel Embiid? Because there's no trade. There's no move where you can upgrade this team. The best case scenario is you're rebuilding for like a picks package. And like, there's no clear, you're never going to get a lottery ticket as good as Joel Embiid currently is. So I get it. He has his flaws. He's not great, but it's just loser mentality to look at it like that. Find ways to complement his skill set. Find guys that bring out the best of him in a way that they still have not fully optimized him as a player. I feel that the same reason we're talking about this Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey versus the world. Those are team construct complaints. Those are not Joel Embiid complaints. That this team has not done a good enough job building up a roster around him. They have not built the proper coaching staff and playbook, however you want to word that, for the actual flow of play. But the bottom line is, like, you can call and point at Joel Embiid all you want. The bottom line is you're just straight up not going to find a better basketball player than him to represent this franchise.
Yeah.
That being said, grab a freaking rebound, please.
Sure. And I hear you.
Just one.
But my pushback there is that goes right back to, like, find players to complement him. Like, if we're being dead honest assessment, like, rebounding has never been a strength of Joel's. That he gets rebounds because he's that big, but he's definitely not skilled as a rebounder. And like, you want to look at like Denver, like an Aaron Gordon next to a Joel Embiid, we're having a completely different conversation right now. So like, I hear you. He definitely like needs to box out better, and like there's moments for it. But I still think like you find a guy that complements him, and we're not having these issues in the first place.
I completely agree, Sean. I think the roster around him has never been maximized to the fullest, and it starts with Tobias Harris, right? You're paying the guy $100 billion to do what? He had a very good first half. He was an absolute ghost in the second half, an absolute ghost, as you'd expect Tobias Harris to be at this point of his career. So, but I'm sure the GM's going to have a nice tweet at the end of the game for us to celebrate. So we'll see.
And even in that first half, like my standards for Tobias is literally just hustle your ass off, get some freaking rebounds, maybe hit a 3, and I'm good. That is a solid Tobias Harris. But it didn't happen in the second half. Quinn says Oubre losing millions by the minute. He is the primary defender of Jalen Brunson. He's been doing a pretty damn good job defensively, but we have to call it as it is, man. This is a guy who's been averaging 20 points a game since the post All-Star break, just 7 points a game in the two games 1 and 2, shooting 5 of 14 from the field. I get he's busting his ass on the defensive side, which we have to call out. But, man, you talk about a game where you need your complementary guys to shine. Where is he at? Any thoughts on Kelly Oubre?
Yeah. He's not as good of a defender to be a 0 offensively, in my opinion. Like, he's not an impact defender at the all-team NBA level to be an absolute 0 offensively. Kelly Oubre is one of the worst spot-up shooters in the NBA. I mean, that's just the numbers tell that story. And he knows that. New York knows that. And they play him exactly like that. They leave him open to shoot. He refuses to shoot the ball because he knows he can't make the shot. The way that he was effective through most of the season was attacking the rim. And he hasn't been effective this postseason because they're physical, man. The whistles aren't the same. New York has scouted the Sixers. They know how to defend them. And when your only outlet is attacking the basket, it's just not a recipe for success. I just don't think, like, I understand Kelly Oubre was very good throughout the regular season, but I'm a bit skeptical about players like that are not great defenders. He's a good defender, but he's not a super defender. And I think the Sixers have to think wisely about what they're going to offer Kelly Oubre, in my opinion. I know you guys may have a different opinion on that. I'm just not a super Oubre fan for the reason that we see for the first 2 games. Like, he's just not that an impact of a player, in my opinion.
And I don't know what happened with all the cutting. Like that was one of my like most optimistic points about him is he made a living this year with the baseline cuts, being active off ball. It feels like now he's just kind of standing in the corner in a way that's like that's everything I don't want you to be doing. That those putbacks, the way he was putting himself in position, that's winning basketball, and that was what was impressing me the most about him. And as far as the defensive stuff, like if you had told me going into the year that Kelly Oubre had carved out a role on his team being the defensive stopper, like I would have called you a liar right there. And to his credit, I do think he's been pretty excellent on Jalen Brunson throughout this series. He's definitely competing on an every possession basis and been far above the level that I would have expected going in. But I definitely agree with you, Tiago, that they need something out of offensively. You have to find a way. And like I do bring it back to like all this ties together with the like lack of creativity in the offense, the not enough cutting. It's all connected. That like if you can find a way to get him going with a couple baseline looks or even a couple alley-oop opportunities, which he's shown to be capable of doing throughout the series, we're talking much differently about Kelly and the offense as a whole. So I think he's a huge piece in this puzzle that we're complaining about with the lack of creativity in the offense, but it's frustrating. And again, like that's why we're talking the way we're talking.
I love this comment, Tiago. Maybe Doc wasn't the problem.
Oh man, I think I dig out my Doc takes from the last 3 years. I stand by what I say about Doc Rivers.
Barry says Embiid is limited, doesn't trust the knees, afraid to drive and draw fouls. 60% on Embiid. Wow. Man, oh man.
Oh, for percentage blame? Yeah, that's crazy high. Mr. Rudy Poo, I've also been peeping in the chat saying how that he's hurting the team and they're not better with him out there, which is just straight up wrong. Like
it's night and day. Like Embiid on the court, this is a way better basketball team than the New York Knicks. Like there's no question. Yeah. However, like what was the non-Embiid stat line like in this one? Because in the first half, it was a blank. It was a 0. They actually did really well, this was the storyline of game 1. With Embiid on the bench, the Sixers got gutted by the Knicks. And with Embiid on the floor, they killed the Knicks. I don't know what it was in the second half because I was doing Party on Broad during the second half, and I couldn't stay on track.
I mean, for him specifically, like game 1, they were a plus 14 when he was on the floor and a minus 21 when he was off. I haven't seen that breakdown, but he was still a plus 3 in a game that they lost by 1 tonight. So like even this version of Joel, whatever percentage you want to put him at, like it just changes everything for both teams. Like the way that both teams attack, the way that everything funnels. So it sucks that he's not himself, but it is what it is. Like I still give the guy a ton of credit for leaving what he's got out there. And I thought it should have been enough tonight.
Yeah.
On that note though, the positive on Joel tonight, I thought that his shot for the most part looked better than it did in the second half against New York. Like I was really concerned watching the second half, and I thought to myself, "Oh man, his legs are completely cooked." And I thought tonight he was somewhat effective from mid-range. He took like 7 threes, and he made a couple. So I think there's some hope if he continues to play that they can at least rely on his outside shooting, which is an effective, super effective tool, right? Because we're the better mid-range shooters in the NBA. So I think there's some hope there, but the mobility is just not there.
There was one moment in this game where there was a steal, I think, in a transition bucket from the Knicks, and you could see Embiid try to like shift it into high gear, and he clearly, was like, "No, that's not happening." Like he's clearly hurt. It's beyond obvious that he doesn't have his legs. Mark says Nurse has to get Oubre involved in the offense. I absolutely agree. It's been really bad. Ryan's in the house. What's going on, Ryan? Sorry, Sean. We can't build around someone who is never healthy enough when it matters. Jason says, good basketball player when he's healthy. Dude just can't move. He's hurt, man. Harris was a ghost. He didn't have a good second half, Quinn. He's the number 1 Tobias fan in this community for sure. Phil's in the house saying, I hate being a Sixers fan. It's not over, man. It's not over. They'll win on Thursday for sure. let's roll on to player of the game. Does anybody have any other takes before we get into player of the game?
I don't know. I'm just hurt, man. I'm just hurt. I can't believe that happened. I really am still processing that final just sequence in my head right now, but I can't believe that's how that game ended.
Dante DiVincenzo, the Michael Jordan of Delaware.
And I mean, and we have to call it out. Embiid was deferring to Maxey at the end of this game.
Yeah. But I also like Maxey did it. Let's not let that get lost. He stepped up and did it, and then it was just thrown away at the end there. I replaying this probably 15 times in my head since we've just been talking here. That's on Lowry. That whole decision, that breakdown at the end, you can't just throw that inbounds there. And why not just call the timeout right away? Why was it not the second that it looked discombobulated? Just take the timeout before you even try and inbounds it. And I get best case scenario, you squeeze it into Maxey, you get fouled, but you just got to know. That's why Kyle Lowry's on this team. You are the champion. You are the guy that's won it at the biggest moment. You're the guy that should be making those types of decisions. And it's just so frustrating. I want to see what the win probability is, because it had to be down at 0.1% for the Knicks, right before that stretch there.
Yeah, you had Maxey hit a mid-range pull-up, a 1 point Sixers lead with 1.5 remaining. Maxey then hit a 3 with 1:09 remaining. The Sixers are up 4. We're all celebrating. Then Jalen Brunson banks one off the rim, and it goes in. And then Kyle Lowry inbounds the ball. They were clearly not on the same page. Maxey then proceeds to get tackled on the inbound.
Timeout.
He did not get tackled.
Nurses on the sideline calling timeout. And the refs don't see it.
He did not get tackled. I disagree with you guys there. I think he was a borderline foul. I thought Maxey should have slowed down. I thought he played way too fast. That's my opinion. But
I just think it should have been a timeout. I don't understand. Nurse might have been a little late, but some of these videos I'm seeing pop out, it looks like the ref should have acknowledged him in the flow of things. And Nurse is directly after the game saying that I called timeout. He looked at me and did not give it to me. So the league last 2-minute review tomorrow is going to be a joy to flip through for sure.
Jesus. And then just horrible rebounding pursued. And then I think Maxey had a missed layup and then a turnover. I think it was a turnover, then a missed layup. Lowry missed a free throw as well within that. So, man, just brutal. Just brutal. All right. Barry says this game goes 7 games. And then this is 2 games the Sixers should have won. That's the issue, is that both of these games should have been W's for the Sixers. Let's get into our Sixers player of the game. All right, Sixers player of the game. This is probably not that difficult considering 68% of the offense came from 2 players. Sean, who are you going with?
I'm giving it to Joel Embiid. It's the heart and soul of this team. He's a guy that wore it all on the floor, that they're not in this game without him. And there were still stretches where he absolutely just carried this team on his back. I don't want to hear all the injury stuff. I get the frustrations at the end, but the bottom line is every chance that they've had, every bit of this game was because of Joel. And it has been to that point for years. I thought he did enough to give this team a fighting chance. They should have gotten the victory. He still ended on the day as far as the stats here: 34 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 12 of 29 from the field. As I mentioned, a +3, had a nice block on Deuce, just 2 turnovers. It's Joel Embiid for me, that he's still the centerpiece of this team and deserves the credit.
What about you, Tiago?
Chris, the player of the game is my beautiful girlfriend for keeping me sane through this whole ordeal. I'm just joking.
Love it.
She is very beautiful. I think Tyrese Maxey absolutely deserves player of the game. Even though he was absolutely brutal in that last possession, in my opinion. He was sensational for the game. I mean, sensational. I thought that his decisiveness, his playmaking, his overall two-way play, I thought for the most part was very, very good. The Sixers don't even have a chance tonight without Maxey. But again, late in the game, man, that turnover in the open court and the last play there, I thought he left a little bit short tonight. But I can't criticize him entirely for that.
Where the hell do I go?
Your wife?
Player of the game is my wife for dealing with this mess here at 11 p.m. on a Monday night. What a mess. Again, I thought Tobias did give some quality minutes in that first half. I still get upset that we had 30 plus minutes in game one, 41 plus minutes of Tobias in game two. Not a lot of adjustment. Like, what were the main adjustments from the Sixers in this one? So they did a better job of attacking the glass, I feel like.
For sure.
Outside of rebounding, like, I don't know. I feel like offensively it wasn't exactly there.
It was a little more Maxey off ball, I thought, like particularly at the start of that one. Like they were running him off screens and creating looks in a way that I didn't think was the case game one. And I thought that was a good way to optimize him. I mean, he had the 3 straight 3-pointers to start the game and thought they ran him pretty well. But yeah, it wasn't overwhelming game changes. Like I thought the defensive matchups were pretty much the same. He stuck with Oubre on Brunson, which continued to work. I think they were hoping that the Josh Hart fall off started this game, and it clearly didn't, that he lit them on fire once again. I still live with that decision there. But yeah, the rebounding was definitely the biggest focus, which to their credit was addressed. And again, like this all should have been enough, man. Like this should have been a win.
Yeah. Another adjustment he made, I thought was good. They went zone when Brunson was off the court, and New York looked a little bit disorganized.
That did work better.
Yeah, so I think there are some things you can take away from this game, but it's just not enough. I do think that Josh Hart's shot regression is coming because he bricked a couple in the fourth.
For sure.
And he looked a little bit unsure already. So I think with the Philly crowd, I'm confident the Brunson whistle and the Hart bricks, they're coming. So
as a Temple guy, for shame for anybody that likes Villanova basketball, because all those guys are just a bunch of crybabies, and I'm just done with them. I'm just annoyed. From Hart to Brunson to all those guys, just I'm done. Let's get into team grades.
Don't you feel it? Sweetness and light from my restless mind. Please give me a way to escape this world gone astray. You could give me a little peace of mind in these troubled times.
This one's brutal because you've now gone through 2 games against the Knicks with Jalen Brunson shooting 35% from the field, 1 of 12 from 3-point range. Tiago, how would you grade today?
I thought it was overall about as average as you can be. I think when you play average on the road in the postseason, you're susceptible to lose. Especially a team like New York is a very, very well-constructed roster. There's no superstar talent in this team, but they play hard, they play fast, they play physical. When you can't match any of those traits, you're going to be susceptible. And I thought that the Sixers invited the Knicks throughout the game to stay in the game when they were the better team, especially in the first half. So it's about as average as you can get. I mean, the Sixers have been an average playoff team under Joel Embiid. They've been an average playoff team with Tyrese Maxey, and they continue to be average. And until that doesn't change, or until that changes, the result's not going to change. So they got 2 games to figure it out here, but average seems to be what we get with this roster. And again, there's obvious circumstances here that are at play, but that's just the outcome that we usually see with those guys.
That's some cold hard truth right there. What about you, Sean?
This is a straight F for me. That I'm going on the results tonight. That it's just straight up unacceptable for this not to be one in the win column. This feels like one of those like where a guy has like a ridiculous crossover and then goes to shoot the three and just like airballs it. That's what like tonight's game felt like. That for the most part, the process, the grit work, the dirty work that needed to be done, it was that you paved the way for yourself to get a win and then you just coughed it all the way up at the end. So I give them a straight F. This was a game that they needed. They had to at least split in New York. I wanted one of the two, and especially the way that both games played out. So I don't think the series is over by any means. I still think very well the Sixers team can win both in New York, and then it's a best-of-3 series from there. But, man, this one hurts. This is straight F for me.
Yeah, it's straight F. All the way. God, I hate complaining about Embiid. I don't want that to be like the lasting parting shot of this show, but at the end of the day, rebounding has been the biggest issue of this series so far, and they have come up small in crucial moments. And then at the end of the day, like you see all these Knicks players, Deuce McBride, Josh Hart. One time on Twitter, I called him Cam Hart. That tells you exactly where my head's at with the NFL draft. And Cam Hart's a player for Notre Dame in the draft. But anyway, this is an F, man. At some point, the Sixers and the playoffs and Joel Embiid and like Tiago said, it's what it is. Quentin said Sixers are an average playoff team with an Embiid and Maxey. That is the bottom line. We should actually make that the title of this show because we can't hide from it. It's just what it is. Quentin also says F. Who will sign my petition to bench Tobias and start B-ball Paul? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Rudy Blue says they cooked Embiid.
One of Tobias' better games today, too, and we're still feeling like that.
Yeah, it really was. But Buddy Hield only played 8 minutes. That's not true. Buddy Hield played 14 minutes in this one, but was basically 0 minutes at this point. If he's not shooting and making threes and providing gravity and spacing on offense, I don't know what he is. So I'll throw it to you, Tiago. Final thoughts on this one. Wow, we're at 47 minutes. That's crazy. Final thoughts, plugs. We'll just wrap that up.
Yeah, I think, if they're able to overcome this catastrophe, they're still in line, in my opinion, to play 7 games. And I still like their chances in Game 7. I call this a 7-game series from the start. I think that's where it's going to land. I think New York's home crowd advantage is a big deal, and I expect Philadelphia's home crowd advantage to match that. Philadelphia fans can be a little bit quick on the trigger when it comes to poor starts, and I'm expecting the Sixers fan base to really be a factor for Games 3 and Games 4 because the New York fan base, for as douchey as they are, and they are very, very douchey. I saw one guy wearing sunglasses in courtside. I'm like, are you kidding me? But yeah, it's still like the Sixers fans need to show up here and be a factor on Thursday.
Do you have anything you want to plug, man?
Yeah, plugs. Do all of my work for you guys, Edge of Philly Sports and thespotup.com. Make sure to check that out. A bunch of articles on a regular basis. So
make sure you check out thespotup.com, man. Tiago is the best of the best. If you want to learn something about basketball or Sixers in general, go check out at Tiago PHL on X, man. Kills it over there. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the series as a whole, I've been very Sixers in 6 from start to finish. Well, now it's Sixers in 7. That I don't think this is over. I do think this team comes back, wins both in Philadelphia. I just can't get past the fact that there's no way you watch both these teams play and come out with the take that the Knicks are the more talented team. I just straight up don't think that's the case. That I think that these have been self-inflicted wounds that have buried these Sixers team on both games, and most particularly tonight. The Sixers, when they play to their peak, this New York Knicks team cannot touch them. That Jalen Brunson, who's the head of the snake, is far closer to Tyrese Maxey than he is to Joel Embiid. I'll say it over and over again. And beyond that, like, we'll see what happens from here. But we lock in on Thursday, get an extra day's rest to see what that does to Joel Embiid's name. And as far as for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. I got plenty of Knicks fans screaming at me in my mentions right now, so feel free to get in the mud and help me out over there. Yeah. But yeah, check out. I'll also be dropping a kind of breakdown on what went wrong in those final couple seconds on Sixers Digest. That I'm hopping on immediately after that, so that should be up within the hour. So stay posted for that. We got some awesome content coming over at Pick Swap Media, teaming up with some Knicks creators. So I'll be ready to fight the good fight with them tomorrow as well.
This reminds me
good
of that
luck,
Hawks.
Sean.
Remember that Hawks series?
No.
That was brutal. That was like
Yeah.
one of the worst series of my life. This has that feel of like Sixers get a couple W's here in Philly, and then who knows what happens in the next two games. But
all it's missing is Maxey forgetting how to shoot. Like Ben Simmons forgot how to like play basketball out of the blue. So and
have a wide open layup in the paint and pass it.
Yeah, fun times. Those are fun times.
All right, we're wrapping it up, guys. We'll be back on Thursday. One last time, give Sean a follow on X at Sean_Bernard1 at Tiago PHL. For Tiago, I'm Dives, Mr. Crockpot. Thank you, everyone, for watching. One last time, we have 945 people watching here right now. Please like this video, help us out, and we will see you on Thursday. For Sean, for Tiago, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.